Hello! Welcome to the Owning Your Sexual Self podcast, a place for you to listen and explore all things surrounding sex positivity. I'm your host, Rachel Main, sex therapist and educator, intimacy coach, awesome wife to my husband, Danny, board of directors member and team leader with Pure Romance, and best of all, a work-from-home dog mom to my favorite pups, Bane and Tater. After starting my Pure Romance business, I quickly learned how much sexuality education was lacking within my community and how much shame was placed on things like fantasies, masturbation, and sexual dysfunctions. I'm on a mission to make this world a more sex-positive place, and with this podcast, I hope to reach thousands of people. I'll bring real-life experiences to the surface and normalize them by offering a non-judgmental view. If you can get down with that, then tune in every Monday and let's change this fucking world. Hey, I'm back. All right, if you haven't yet already gone to my website to get the freebie that I created for y'all last week, I highly recommend that you do that. It was specifically created for those of you that struggle to find time with foreplay. I give you my 5 top ways to get the foreplay that you crave. If the previous week's website was a little bit confusing for you, that was one of the feedback points that I got from so many of you. They're like, how many S's is in wellness expertise? How do I spell this? No worries. So I actually recreated the website link. So the new website is now rachelmain.com. If that's not easy enough, I don't know what is. So it's my first and last name. So Rachel, R-A-C-H-E-L, Main, M-A-I-N-E.com. That will take you right to the Wellness Expertise website where you can download the freebie on foreplay and have it saved right to your computer, right to your device, whatever it is that you are accessing it from. So anyways, while creating that freebie, of course, I reached out to my colleagues for help around this, and one of them is actually today's guest, Angela Mitchell. I'm super excited for all to hear from her. Angela is able to offer a very different perspective than I am when it comes to foreplay because she is a mother herself. And so part of what we're going to be talking about this week is maintaining connection in your partnership, even if you are a parent. I hear from so many of you moms out there how you struggle to find time, not only for foreplay, but that connection with your partner. And Angela is a wife, a mama of 3, also a counselor, so she can provide some insight in that lens as well, and also the founder of Love Intentionally. And she truly loves helping couples bring intentionality into all aspects of their life and co-create the life of their dreams. And when I was talking with her about ideas for this foreplay freebie, her tip of advice for me to include in the freebie was to put your children to bed at a bedtime. And while that might sound so simple, yet so hard for so many of you, I thought that was genius. And I thought, wow, I need you to come on the podcast to talk about this because I feel that this is something that has to come from somebody that is a mother. Y'all know I'm a dog mom for life. And so without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode with Angela Mitchell. I'm so excited for y'all to hear from her. So as I said, I'm super excited to have Angela Mitchell here with us. And in the intro, I just introduced her as a regular old counselor, but she's so much more than that. Angela actually works specifically with children, which is even more beneficial to this episode because she's able to now share the lens of what she sees with the little ones that she works with in her day job, and then also from that parent aspect. So Angela, super excited to have you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell us, all right, so let's start with like the kids' perspective. So when you're working in the schools, how important is it for children to have this like set schedule, structure, bedtime? Like what is it that you're seeing mostly?
Yeah, so super important. My job as a school counselor, I am a regular old counselor too, so I'm both. But my job specifically in the schools that I've done for 12 years now is we help with mental health of kids, absolutely. But a huge part of it in a school setting is working on behavior, right? So helping them regulate their emotions so that they can be present and able to learn. And the two biggest factors when a kid is melting down were like, are they hungry? Are they tired? Right. And really, like, we try to rule those two things out first, because we've all been hangry before as adults, right? Mm-hmm. If our blood sugar is low, it's hard to regulate our emotions, even as grownups. And if we're tired, I got home last night from work and I was so tired and I felt like I couldn't think straight. I was like fumbling around the kitchen to the point of my husband being like, why don't you go sit down and I'll finish dinner? Even as adults, right, we have that. So sleep is a huge part of a kid being able to manage their own behavior, regulate their emotions, which then turns into getting along with peers and having, friendships. Also, and then just being available to learn, right? And I'm sure, through all this, some parents are probably seeing this even more so at home because they're the ones, with kids doing remote learning a lot now, having to, navigate that and seeing what happens when their kid is tired and how the meltdowns can occur. And even, that's obviously with the young kids, but even teenagers. I have one of those too. We've got 3 kids, and, the teenager, you can tell when he's tired because he gets grumpy and sulky and, all of those things as well. So huge piece for emotion regulation, huge piece for brain development, especially as young kids. I'm fascinated by brain research, and one of the things, and I teach my students this to try to help their parents out, is I say, you have to get a good night's sleep because we know that your hippocampus stores your memories and the things you've learned today while you're sleeping. It does its most effective work while you're sleeping. So if you're not getting enough sleep, then all of that great stuff you learned today is going out the window and you're not going to remember it tomorrow. I think all people who have been new parents can relate. When you are deprived, your brain turns to mush and you can't remember anything, right? You leaving your keys all over the place and forgot that appointment you were supposed to have. So yeah, huge for adults, even more significant for kids because their brain is still developing. So.
And how is the amount of sleep that a child should get? Is it the same as adults or do they need more, less?
Yeah, lots more actually. It's really not until, somewhere in the teen years that they start, needing more around an adult, level. But elementary kids, depending on the age, my kids still get 12 hours of sleep, even my 8-year-old. So, I think each kid's a little different, but yeah, when they're young, elementary age, somewhere in the 10 to 12 hour range, they should be getting. And then even really like in middle school, it's around 10 is ideal, 9, so it's not until our brains are more developed that really we can function well on those 8 hours of sleep. Most adults aren't getting enough sleep either. We should be getting 8 hours. So yeah, but young kids, elementary especially, I say shoot for 12.
And that's 10 to 12 hours with them getting up early for school. I just need to point that out because somebody is listening to this like, oh my gosh, my kid's going to bed at 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then for them to get 10 to 12 hours, that's taking them into the afternoon, basically the next day.
Right. Yeah. We back up from our elementary to, they need to get up around 7 a.m. So we, our bedtime's around 7:30. So they're getting 11 and a half hours at night. And then in the summer, we'll let them stay up till 8 because they can sleep till 8 the next morning, that kind of thing. It can fluctuate a little bit, but yeah, we shoot 11 to 12.
Amazing. I know somebody is listening to this right now, like, what could my life look like if my kids went to bed at 7:30 or 8 o'clock? I mean, I'm even just thinking of my friends, my family that struggle so much with this. It's like bedtime always seems to be like, it's a fucking surprise. Like, oh my, like what? I have to go to bed? Like, it seems like a surprise when I'm talking with them that their kids are like, just like fat, like, what is this new thing you speak of? And it's like, you have to go to bed every single day. It's just every like, night. It happens, but it's like, this new discovery and they push back. So what advice around that? So either from your counselor perspective or from the mom perspective, what has worked for you to actually get your kids to go to bed and to eliminate that struggle or that fight that it so often becomes?
Yeah. So number one thing is just make it a routine. So I mean a couple of things by that. One is that, well, the going to bed early, and then if you're doing it consistently and they're consistently getting enough sleep, they are going to sleep better. So when kids and adults, when we get overtired, we actually don't sleep as well. Like if you've ever been exhausted and then like had a terrible night's sleep, kids are very much that way, especially, I'm sure a lot of parents saw when their kids are babies, they get fussy and cry and you're like, I know they're so tired and they're just fussing and they won't go to sleep. So when they're getting enough sleep, they more easily fall asleep. So that, and obviously if your kids have been staying up late, that's going to be a transition time where they're not used to going to bed that early. And it's going to maybe be some battles at first. My thing with parenting though, it is always a game of chess. It is checkers, right? A lot of what we do as parents is really just trying to outsmart kids.
Yeah.
And we need to go for the long game, right? Like the short term, it might seem easiest to just like not fight the bedtime and wait till they're exhausted and passing out on the couch and then carry them to bed. Long term, that's not going to work out best for anyone. So it's always that idea that if we put some effort in up front, then it usually saves us a lot of work in the long run. So it's a long game. So routine, our kids do the same thing every night for bed. And I mean, each family can, structure their routine to fit with what works for them. We eat dinner around 6 so that we're done by 6:30. The kids help clear the table, that whole thing. And then they have a little bit of time. Sometimes we'll play a game or get on our basement and play basement soccer. Or, if it's maybe if they haven't had TV time, we might let them watch, part of a movie or something. So we do some kind of activity for a little bit, maybe 30 minutes, and then they start getting ready for bed. And they know there are things they have to do, right? They have to put their jammies on, they have to go to the bathroom, they have to brush their teeth, and then we read. So for young kids and kids that are still willing to be read to, reading at bedtime is great. It gives them a chance to relax. It's that calm. They're, can be all ready for bed, even snuggled in while you read. And, obviously for vocabulary and learning and all of those things, being read to is great. So, we see better literacy skills with kids, obviously, that have been read to. So that's our family routine. Some people might incorporate a gratitude or a prayer or meditation. We've done some meditations with our kids if they've had trouble sleeping, or we put on, they have great like kids apps for kids meditations, and you can put that on and let the soothing music and the soothing voice kind of lull the kids to sleep. White noise can help. If the grown-ups are still awake, which if you're putting your kids to bed at 7:30, you probably are, some white noise so they're not distracted by what we're doing or that FOMO of like, well, what are mom and dad out? So yeah, just creating that routine. And as they do it more and more, it just becomes the norm, right? And then it's not the surprise or not so much the argue. I use the line sometimes with my kid. It's if they're arguing about bedtime, I'm like, oh, you must be overtired since you're arguing with me. We'll make sure to get to bed earlier tomorrow night. And they're like, wait, no. Right. So, feel free to play the like, oh, if you're arguing, you might be overtired. I'm so sorry I let you stay up this late. I'm going to make sure to fix that tomorrow.
Nice.
Chess. It's chess.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm watching that show, The Queen's Gambit right now on Netflix. So when you say chess, I actually feel like I understand, and I basically am a professional chess player now. So that I like the analogy. Well, that is. Go ahead.
I would also say something, especially for younger kids, setting up like incentive systems too, if they're really fighting, struggling bedtime, like a few kind of from a behavior change standpoint, is really teaching the expectations clearly, right? So this is what bedtime is going to look like, right? We're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this, right? And then lights out. You know, we went through periods when we were doing kind of transition bed stuff where we might say, you get to call mom or dad in one time. Cause sometimes you get the like, I need water and I need whatever. Mm-hmm. So we would set up, we will come in one time. So save your one for something good, you know? And lo and behold, lots of times they'd be like saving it for like really needing it. And they would end up falling asleep and calling us in 0 times. Mm-hmm. So that can help. But really like front load the expectations. This is what it's going to look like. Once you're in bed, you need to stay in bed. You can call us once or kind of whatever your game plan is. And then it can really help kids when they're learning a new habit or routine to incentivize it. So we would do like sticker charts or point charts on, you know, so if you get ready for bed without arguing, you know, you can get a sticker, and if you get it, whatever. And then I don't like tangibles so much for rewards, you know, because I don't want my kids feeling like they need a piece of candy or a toy every time they do what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. So we do it more around like, you know, okay, well, if you're able to, you know, get your 3 stickers at bedtime for following directions and all those things, then, you know, tomorrow, you know, we'll let you pick a game for the family to play after dinner, or we'll, you know, maybe that's how they earn their screen time or something like that. So incentivizing it. And there's different philosophies around that. You know, my personal one is adults appreciate incentives too, right? Mm-hmm. Like most of us wouldn't show up to work every day if we weren't collecting a paycheck, right? Yeah. Maybe a few out there, but most of us, right? Like, I worked hard, I'm doing this, and, you know, I want to be recognized. And for kids, a lot of times that recognition is just attention, right? They just want to be praised. They want to say, like, you did a nice job. You earned something. So,
yeah, I love that. So many helpful tips, and I'm sure I'll get a lot of feedback on this. Like, Angela was so amazing. She's like mom of the year. So, all right. So now let's transition into now what your life looks like, your marriage, your sex life specifically, because this is a follow-up to, again, that foreplay freebie that I created, and that was a piece, like setting that bedtime. Now what does this open up for your opportunity for your self-care, for your intimate care? So how has this helped your marriage, would you say?
Yeah, so 2 things. One, I really believe that the best gift I can give my kids is happily have parents in a happy and healthy relationship, right? And so when I take time for myself to make sure I'm happy and healthy, when I take time for my partnership to make sure it's happy and healthy, I feel 0 guilt. And I think parents, and I don't know that I felt this way with my first child, honestly. Like, sometimes as a parent, you feel like you have to do everything for your kids, and you feel really guilty taking the me time or taking the time for your relationship. And now I've learned that it's the opposite. I'm the better mom if I take care of myself. My marriage is stronger if we focus on that. And ultimately, my kids benefit from that more than anyone, right? To have a happy home. So one is, I think, just releasing that guilt of like, I'm going to put you to bed because mommy's happier. Mommy and daddy are going to stay married as a result, right? This is good for you. And I've even been direct with my kids about that. When my husband and I go away for a weekend and the kids are, like, oh, we're going to miss you and we don't want you to go and that kind of stuff. I'm like, do you like having mommy and daddy happy? Great. This is what we do. So I think it's also a good example to set to your kids that it is important to take care of yourself. It's important to take care of your relationship. Glennon Doyle articulates it really beautifully in Untamed. Have you read?
I'm listening to that right now, actually.
Yeah. I love when she talks about how being her authentic self gives her kids then permission to be their authentic self, right? I go around being a martyr that's exhausted and overworked and underpleasured. Like, I'm sending that message to my kids that that's what they should do when they grow up to be a parent. And I want my kids to take care of themselves and experience pleasure and have amazing relationships and amazing sex and all of those things, right? So I need to model that for them.
I love that.
That's all my philosophy on why I do it. What I do is, I'll spend realistically, I'll spend a little time after they go to bed just kind of prepping for the next day, right? Get my ducks in a row so tomorrow's not overwhelmed. I might pack some lunches, whatever. My husband has been really great and learned to say what needs to get done so I can have you to myself.
Oh
So
my
he'll say
gosh,
that.
that's like the statement of the year. Gosh.
Yeah, it's a great. So for partners out there listening, like it's great to if it's a team thing, because then we can get it done in like 20-30 minutes, and then we've got a couple hours before we're planning to go to bed. So yeah, so I might pack the lunches, do the thing, right? And then it's, it depends on the night. There's some nights where, I'm tired and maybe I just want to read a book or take a bath or, that kind of thing. Maybe there's the other night I had some girlfriends and we did a Zoom wine date, with them. And that was great. So there's sometimes things I do to take care of myself. And then that's also our time for our relationship. And so, making sure, and sometimes we even kind of schedule it depending on what's going on. It might be like, okay, like Thursday night, me and you, sometimes we realize sometimes we might have more time or more energy for a longer intimate session than others. But yeah, I think it's really just kind of holding that time sacred as time for self-care and time for each other.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that about scheduling sex even, and because it's so many people are against that, and I have a previous episode around this, but it's like if it's already not happening and you're just fighting the fact that you are in a position where you might have to schedule sex or need to schedule sex, if what you're doing is already not working, why not try something different? And how you just said it is like perfect. It doesn't have to be this like super like let's sit down and like write it on the calendar type thing. It can be what you said, you and me Thursday night. When I hear that or I say that to my husband, I'm like, I cannot wait for Thursday night to come, right? And you're both on the same page, like you said. When you can make it a team effort, you're working together to get the things done that need to be done so that you can stay true to what you said, basically what your plan was. So I love that you said that.
Yeah, we do that as part of our kind of like relationship board meeting that we do on Sundays. And so for us, especially with a busy household and 3 kids and each having a couple jobs and all sorts of stuff, we'll plan out on Sunday. We talk about our meal planning. We talk about kind of the schedule for the week, who's taking which kid to soccer, all of those things. And then we schedule in sex and intimacy too. And sometimes it's not like, we don't know exactly how the week's going to unfold and what our energy levels and stuff might be, but we'll say like, okay, so Wednesday or Thursday night looks like a good night to have, a longer our basement sessions. We have a kind of meditation room in our basement. So, like, okay, we're going to do a basement session on like Wednesday or Thursday. And, or a sex magic ritual on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever. So it might be a little floating, and then Wednesday comes and it's like, okay, how you feeling? Should we do it tonight or tomorrow night? So again, we allow some flexibility, but we also, I feel like, I always say if something is put on my calendar, it will happen, right? Because that's just, if it's on my to-do list, if it's on my calendar, it's going to happen. And we do that for dentist appointments, right? And quite frankly, I really like sex with my husband better than the dentist. So if I'm willing to schedule that, like, well, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And I have to ask, has it always been like this? Clearly what you're doing is working really well for you and your family. Has it always been like this, or is this something new for you?
Both. And so my first son, my oldest that I had, was in a previous relationship, not with my husband. And I don't think I did it right. I was kind of I was a new mom. I like to say like our first kid, like, they're kind of an experiment, right? None of us really know what we're doing. They don't send us home with a manual from the hospital. And like, I got more information on my car when I bought a car than I did this kid that like, they just let me take this kid home from the hospital. I had no idea what I was doing. So I didn't do as well with the bedtime routine. I felt I didn't want him to cry. I didn't, there was just a lot of things that I was still learning. And as a result, he didn't really sleep through the night till he was about 4. So learn from mistakes. That was not a sustainable plan. So I did it much better with the second and third child around that. And then I think too, as I've also just really recognized the need for self-care, the need for focus on our relationship. When you are in the midst of having kids, there are also hormonal factors to consider, right? After a baby, obviously, like, your vagina needs to heal if you had a vaginal birth, or even more so if you had a C-section and your abdomen and your scar is still healing, right? There's those times when sometimes, and you're exhausted and your hormones are all out of whack, right? So I never want like new moms to feel guilty if their sex life isn't amazing right after they have their kids. That is totally normal. And I think, there's still ways to stay connected. There's still ways to be intimate without, intercourse. That can happen. Also, if you're breastfeeding, you're like, no, please don't touch my nipples, right? So there are some factors there when you're in the midst of having kids. And for anyone who's listening and going through that right now, like, it does get better. I promise. Your body at some point starts to feel your own again. Your sex drive comes back, right? So I think some of it is just having that open communication with your partner on, like, hey, this is what's going on with my body right now. And let's find other ways to stay connected, and knowing that if we really are intentional about it and we make our relationship and our intimacy a priority, like, we will get it back. Yeah. We're just going through a transition time.
Yeah. And from the clinician perspective on both our behalves, if it doesn't come back, if desire's not coming back and you're continuing to feel this loss of self or this connection to self, reach out to somebody, please. Like, ask for help, ask your partner for help, talk to a friend, talk to a counselor, a therapist, like, get the help that you need. Because Angela just said it does get better. It should get better. You want it to get better. And that goes to say too, I asked you specifically, has it always been like this? Because I know there's somebody that's listening to this thinking, I could never be that mom. I'm not the mom that has it all together. I'm not the mom that can set a bedtime and stick to it. And I'll just challenge you on that, because if what you're doing again now is not working, what do you truly have to lose to try something different? And ultimately, we all want more fulfilled relationships with our spouse and with our children. And it just, there's so many different things that somebody listening to this could try. And would you agree that it is very much a trial and error process?
Oh, absolutely. And, again, the funny thing is, like, you get it really figured out for one kid, and then you have another kid and they have a completely different personality and the same tricks don't work. Right. And it's like, it's a game of chess. It's a long game, right? So really thinking about, how do I want this to look in the long run, and what things can I try? There's great books out there. There's, all sorts of resources, that people can reach out to. There is a book called The Baby Sleep Boss. And I think she gives a whole system, like, if you're trying to get your baby to start sleeping on a more regular schedule. And there's a ton of other ones out there too. It takes, like, that concept of it takes a village, is so true for for parenting.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this was so good. I want to ask, actually, specifically before we jump off, how can somebody listening to this get their partner on board with the bedtime routine, or this idea of, hey, I need self-care and I want you to also have your own version of self-care at the end of the day? How do you have any advice on that?
So, from a behavior change standpoint, which, I joke too when I'm, like, talking to other parents with kids' behavior. I'm like, and this might also work on your husband or your wife, adults, we go through some of the same things with behavior change. So people usually are willing to change behavior because of pain or pleasure, right? Either there's a pain point, so they're wanting it to change because it's painful, or they're seeking pleasure, right? I think this is a perfect example of both, right? So if you are able to talk to your partner about, like, look, like, we're both exhausted, like this isn't working, that's a pain point. And if we did this, we could have more pleasure together and for ourselves, then it's kind of hitting both, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's about really finding out what are your partner's needs, wants, desires, and, helping them to see maybe that they have a vested interest as well in instituting this, because I think very few parents would say, oh, I don't really want any me time, or no, I don't want time for sex, ever. So really kind of explaining those benefits that can come from it. And like I said, anytime you're changing behavior, there's going to be a transition period that can be rough, right? But then once the routine is in and settled is when it smooths out. I use the vending machine example. It's like if you always press the vending machine and the, chips come out, you're used to I do this and then this is what happens, right? And so whatever bedtime routine your kids are in, whether it's arguing or staying up late or that kind of thing, that's what they push that button, they get their chips. If you start changing things up on them, they push the button, the chips don't come out. What do? You start, banging on the vending machine. No one just walks away and goes, oh, lovely, I don't have chips, right? So whenever there's a behavior change, there is usually some pushback. But you're not going to bang the vending machine forever, right? Once you realize that, oh, doing this no longer is working, I'm not getting the chips anymore, then you do kind of give up on that and go, okay, how am I gonna get my chips, right? Okay, well, do the new bedtime and then I can earn my incentive. That's a better way to get my chips.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I've never heard that before. It's a good one.
I like analogies.
Yeah, if I don't get my vending machine chips, I'm like, what the fuck? I'm hungry.
You start kicking it.
Yeah, I already know I wasn't supposed to be getting these chips in the first place, and now you're not giving them to me.
Even the vending machine's making me feel guilty.
Yes, gosh. And to kind of piggyback off what you're saying too, it's I'm sure those of you that are listening, I'm sure your partner wants you to be able to show up in a more authentic and genuine way, and for you not to be so tired and cranky or whatever negative sort of shit you're going through in your life right now. That might just be because of the craziness. Some of you had to recently transition and be a teacher, like we talked a little bit about on here. You're having to do e-learning. So now you're not just mom, you're teacher, your wife, your sibling, your daughter. You're playing all these different roles, but your role of self has to be the number one priority in your life, because you cannot pour from that empty cup. And so implementing some of these things that were talked about on this episode, I think can help just so many people. And again, I want to kind of end on this thought of your kids are now potentially going to bed at 7:30, let's say 8 o'clock at night versus 10, 11 o'clock. What are you going to do with this extra 2 to 3 hours of uninterrupted time? What are the potentials for that? What opportunities can you do? Yeah, that's so great. I think that this was an amazing episode, and I'm so excited to hear what people thought about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Any final tips or anything else in the final seconds?
Yeah, I think I would just, the whole reason I do a lot of what I do, both with my work with kids and parents and with James and I with Love Intentionally, working with couples, is that I truly believe that if you take care of yourself first and then your primary partnership, right, your home, then all of the other pieces of your life tend to flow and fall into place so much easier, right? We've all been in places where we either weren't healthy or our relationship wasn't healthy, and it takes so much energy that we're not able to show up as our best parent. We're not able to show up as our best, in our career. We're not able to show up as our best in our relationships with family and friends, right? So I truly believe that if we can take care of ourselves, we show up in our relationship as our best self. And then if our relationship is healthy and stable, then we get to show up in the rest of the world. So it's kind of this domino effect of loving ourselves, loving our partner, and then that love is just expansive out to the world. So
good.
to do all this.
Yes. Thank you. And how can the listeners find you through social, or how do you prefer to be contacted?
Yeah. So couple ways. Love Intentionally is the work that my husband and I do with couples. And so, and really around creating intentional families and intentional partnerships with or without kids. So our website is loveintentionally.co, like Colorado, loveintentionally.co. So you can find us on our website and contact us through there. Also on Instagram as loveintentionally.co. We can be found there. Facebook, also Love Intentionally on Facebook. So for your preferred method, you can find us.
Perfect. Love Intentionally. Look for the Mitchells. You will find them. They're everywhere. And I'll link all of those things in the show notes too. So if anybody wants just an easy click, it'll be there for you. And the Untamed book and the Baby Sleep Boss. Yes, those will definitely be linked in the show notes as well. So thanks again, Angela. This was awesome. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel, and good luck to all you parents out there.
Thank you so much for listening today and helping me change the world by spreading sex positive awareness. If you love the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode, and leave a review for others to see. If you want to see me on the daily, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Rachel Main, or check out my Linktree website in the show's bio for direct links to all my pages. You can also shop my Pure Romance store or become a Pure Romance business owner yourself by visiting pureromance.com/RachelUC. Thank you again so much. Until next week, go out there and own your sexual self.